Hello and welcome to another episode of the Troy Francis podcast with me, Troy Francis, and I am recording this for you in London Bridge Station. It's the first podcast of the year, the first podcast of the decade, in fact. This is 2020. And yeah, I am currently in the glamorous location of London Bridge Railway Station in the centre of London, and the reason I'm here is because I just attended a meeting earlier on, and I've got to go and do another thing quite near to here a little bit later. So on the fly, in between my various commitments, I am recording this particular episode of the podcast for you. So I hope you're grateful, because it's a little bit chilly and I look like a bit of an idiot standing around talking into my recording device. Although, to be fair, lots of people are on the phone here and they probably don't know that I'm recording a secret underground podcast for you guys, as much as I could just be speaking to my relatives in the Outer Hebrides or something like that. So anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to the new year. Welcome to the new decade. I hope that you have had an enjoyable Christmas period, and I hope that you are feeling sufficiently revitalized and you are excited to get into a new year and a new decade with renewed energy, because that's certainly how I've been feeling. Last week was a bit of a funny week because there were only 2 working days in between the end of the New Year period and the weekend. But nevertheless, I got back to it on the Thursday, and I just got that feeling of renewed sort of energy, enthusiasm, thinking, right, we're in a new year now, the celebrations are over, let's smash it, let's do this thing, let's have an amazing year. So I am ready to go. I've got all guns blazing with the content, lots and lots of exciting stuff for you guys being planned as we speak. So yeah, it's all going to be great on my end, and I hope that you are feeling the same way too. Now, what I'm going to be talking about today is the concept of logic and the reasons why you shouldn't use logic, particularly in a dating scenario with girls, but generally as a persuasive technique anyway. Logic, sure, it has its place, it's very important, it is the fundamental foundation of Western civilization, let's say, but putting all of that aside for a minute, it can also have its negative aspects, particularly in the realm of the emotional, where it just doesn't really work very well, where you're trying to convince people of things. And what you've got to remember is that emotion is present actually in a great many more decisions than we would think or we would like to think. So yes, which political party you vote for should, of course, be a logical decision based on a number of factors. But in the end, it kind of comes down to emotion. Same thing as purchase choices. The products that you select, the washing powder that you use, the wine that you buy, the iPhone or the phone that you buy should be a considered decision based on the facts, based on logic and the facts as you have them at your hand. But again, it tends to be emotion rather than logic that drives those decisions, and that's really what I want to get into today, but with particular reference to dating, because obviously dating is our core subject here on this show. But before I get into that, just a couple of the usual parish notices, just to let you know that my bundle of 10 books, Renegade Dating Blueprint, is still available for the ridiculously low sum of just $39. You can get that on the link below. So please do. It's got books like How to Be an Asshole, 7 Laws of Seduction, Text Game Mastery, 50 Shades of Game, and many more. So it's really my life's work to date as far as the dating, sexual marketplace stuff is concerned. It is a really, really great bundle. It's an amazing deal. I could be selling all of those books individually for $250 upwards if I was so minded. So to get them all for less than $40 is pretty extraordinary. So I would encourage you to hit that link, because that offer won't last forever, and it is below. What else? Yes, please do sign up for my daily email list. I send out an article absolutely free of charge every day to my subscriber list. Again, the link is below. If you want to get onto that, I would highly recommend that you do so, because you know, in this day and age, we see deplatforming going on all the time. You never quite know where you are on the different social media platforms. But with email, it's different. With email, I can still get content directly to you, and there's no tech giant standing in the way. So I would highly encourage you to jump on board with that email list. As I say, the link is below. And finally, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, you might be listening to this podcast on YouTube. If you are, please take a moment to give this podcast a like and then hit subscribe and the notifications bell so that you're kept up to date when my new content is coming out. If you are listening to this on SoundCloud or perhaps on iTunes or some other provider, then do please take a moment to head over to YouTube and to subscribe to my channel over there and hit the notifications bell. The reason for that is because really YouTube is becoming my main platform at the moment. I'm really enjoying YouTube. I'm putting loads of work into it. I'm putting out, generally speaking, about 4 videos a week. I'm putting out the podcast on Monday. I'm putting out usually a scripted video on Tuesday. Sorry, 5 videos a week. What am I talking about? So a scripted video on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll either put out a video where I'm talking to camera, or I'll do a live stream where I'll talk about a particular topic in depth. And of course, that with a bit of Rule Zero on top as well, with the guys from Rule Zero, Rollo Tomasi, John Modern Life Dating, Ryan Stone, Rich Cooper, etc. That goes out on the Saturday. So yeah, I'm pretty much active on YouTube every day at the moment, and I certainly plan to keep that going throughout 2020. So I'm trialing lots of different sorts of things. I'm really enjoying the scripted videos where I usually offer some advice against a reader problem. Somebody's emailed me and I'll give my 2 pence worth on what I think they should do in their particular scenario. I love doing the live streaming, getting really deep into a particular topic. And also I really like doing the to-camera videos, advice videos and things as well. So I'm trialing a combination of different things. Really want you to get involved. Do subscribe, and that helps me to bump up the algorithm so I can attract more people to the channel and to keep creating this content for you, but also just for your own benefit as well, because if you like the stuff that I'm putting out, then YouTube is certainly the place to get it at the moment. There's some news on the blog as well. I had a technical issue on the blog last week. I was going to put something up on Friday. A bit of a technical issue I need to sort out, so I actually put the article up on Patreon. So if you go to my Patreon page, and again the link is below, you can read the article that I was going to put on my blog. It's up on Patreon, and please do consider supporting me on Patreon as well, because again, you know, I've got to keep this show on the road, and any support that you guys can offer really helps me out with that. So even if you only fancy chucking $10 a month in the hat or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Patreon is the place to do that, and I am putting exclusive content up there as well. Anyway, look, I'm now 8 minutes into the show already, and I haven't even scratched the surface of the burning topic that I want to discuss. So naughty me, I need to get into the meat and drink of the show. So basically, I want to talk about this idea of not appealing to logic, because it just doesn't work very well, and particularly, as I say, when you're talking about a dating type scenario. So now I want to read you something from Mr. Rollo Tomasi, who, of course, in time-honored fashion, has an article on this. He wrote an article called Appeals to Reason, which came out 6 years ago on his blog. And there was quite a good little bit that I wanted to read to you here. Okay, here we go. Appealing to a woman's logic and relying on deductive reasoning to sort it out is the calling card of a beta mind. There is nothing more anti-seductive for women than appealing to her reason. Arousal, attraction, sexual tension, subcommunication of desire all happen indirectly and below the social surface for women. It's not that women are incapable of reasoning, hypergamy is one logical bitch, or crippled by their own emotion-based hindbrains. It's that if you're asking her how to be more attractive, you don't get it. It's in the doing, not the asking. So, very powerful paragraph there from Mr. Tomasi, and yeah, basically to saying there's nothing more anti-seductive for women than appealing to her reason. Okay, so what Rollo is talking about there is a fairly specific sort of situation, and it's a situation in dating or seduction, and we'll get into that in a minute. But just on a more general note, trying to convince a woman of what you want her to do, of the course of action that you would like her to take, because it's in your interest, by logic, is pretty much always doomed to fail. And he's not saying that it's because women aren't logical or lack the cognitive ability to be logical. Of course, that's absolutely not the case. Nobody's saying that. However, it just doesn't work very well as a persuasion technique. And why not? Well, because in the realm of dating, it's all about how you feel, isn't it? It's not about somebody saying, somebody could say to me, in fact, people have said to me, well, Troy, wouldn't it be fantastic if you dated women who were more your own age? Why don't you date somebody who's British and she's kind of similar age to you? And wouldn't that be really great? Now, that's a logical appeal to my reason. And, I don't want to debate now the pros and cons of that. But, people have their reasons for saying that. It sort of sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? Date somebody kind of your own age. They've got similar background. They've got similar interests and all that kind of thing. But it falls on deaf ears because that is not my interest. That's not what I desire, The people that I date, my girlfriend, the people that I've dated in the past have tended to be a bit younger than me. They've tended to come from quite different backgrounds to me. And that's just the way it is. That's what I like, and that's what I'm happy with. And so somebody saying to me in a doubtless logical and reasoned way, well, actually, I think it would be better if you did this, it's just not going to work because like most human beings, I act probably 5% on logic and about 95% on emotion. So you might be listening to this and you might be a very logical kind of person, and you might think, well, that's ridiculous. If people should work on emotion. People should work on logic. People should make rational decisions based on arguments, and so that's how I'm going to proceed. But the problem is, you might think that, and you might have good grounds for thinking that, but you can't change the world. You can't change the way that other people around you react to stimuli, if you like. So all you can do is think about how best you can get your outcome. And if your outcome is, okay, right, I want to change this person's behavior, I want to date this person, I want to stop dating this person, or whatever it is, you need to think about how you can appeal to them on the emotional level rather than on the logical level, because like it or not, the logical level just isn't going to work very well. I always remember going out back in the day in London and doing game, and I used to wing with a guy who went on to work for Real Social Dynamics for a while. Very, very intelligent guy. He's totally out of that sphere now. He works in startups, I think, and no doubt he's doing very well. And I once said to him, and I was a bit green at this point, and I said to him, well, what about if I'm talking to a girl and it's kind of not going really very well, and I just say to her, well, look, listen, I really like you. I really want something to happen here. And he said to me, if you get to the point where you are saying to a girl, listen, I really like you, then you've kind of lost already. And that was 10, 15 years ago, he said that to me, and it's always stuck with me. And I think things stick with you for a reason. And I believe that little nugget of conversation stuck with me because it's true. Because if you are trying to appeal sort of logically to a woman in that manner, then you've sort of lost the game, haven't you? Because she's got to be feeling it. She's got to emotionally want to go along with what you want. So in that instance, I guess, I don't know, coming on a date with me or continuing to see me or whatever it was, I forget the exact circumstances. She's got to want it. And if she doesn't want it, then your words, however clever they are and however well calibrated they are and all the rest of it, are not really going to have much of an effect. And guys, this can be worse, to be honest, if for the more eloquent amongst us. I am relatively eloquent, I think. I mean, I say I'm on this podcast probably more than I should, and I'm sure people will pick me up on that. But you know what I mean? Once I get into my flow, I can be fairly erudite. I can talk well. I can talk for a long time. I can be quite convincing in putting across my arguments and so on and so forth. And so the temptation for someone like me, who tends to live in their head a lot of the time, is to fall back on logical argument, on persuasion, in the sense that as guys, we tend to think of persuasion, which is almost like it being a court of law, and you're there to argue your case. I tend to fall back on that form of persuasion in an attempt to further my ends in an emotional situation. And believe me, I've done it many, many times, and it has failed many, many, many times because it just doesn't work very well. So what sort of circumstances am I talking about? Well, look, so say you've met a girl on a night out and you are trying to persuade her to give you her phone number. Or say you've been seeing a girl for a little while and then she says, well, actually, I think we should call it quits because I don't think we're really on the same page here, and you are trying to persuade her to keep seeing you. Or say, and this is one from Reddit from the other day. Say, what's the circumstances again? Oh God, I've forgotten. All right, let me try and think of another quick one really quickly. Say you are with a girl and she really, really wants to go out to the club that night, and you don't want to go to the club, and because she's a real party girl and you are somebody who likes their home comforts a bit more, you prefer to stay at home and relax, and you try to persuade her through logic why her going out partying all the time isn't a good thing, and she should be spending that time with you instead and be happy to do so. Using those logical appeals, it's not really going to work. And even if it does work in the short term, she's going to feel duped because she's going to be aware that you manipulated her through language, you manipulated her through argument to do something that went against her feelings. So there's an old expression, which I believe was mystery in the PUA game space, the dating knowledge space, if you like, that goes something like change her mood, not her mind. And this is really what it gets to the heart of. You need to change her mood, not seek to change her mind with your clever, lawyerly arguments. So how do you do that? Well, the way to change someone's mood is through action rather than words. Words can convince in a sort of legalistic sense, but they don't really change a person's mood. What does change the mood is action. And again, like my friend said that time, if you are trying to convince someone that you really, really like them and they should really, really like you too, then you've probably lost already, because probably your actions from the beginning were out of whack, were out of line. And so, unfortunately, guys will often come to me or to other people who work in this sphere when there's an existing problem, and they'll say, well, there's this girl and I can't, I want to keep seeing her, she doesn't want to keep seeing me, what do I do? What's the magic words that's going to keep this thing going? And unfortunately, by the time you come to me with that question, or whoever else you go to with that question, it might be that you've lost the battle already because your actions weren't such that she wants to stay with you, One thing that is very, very powerful, though, is to create distance. Now, earlier on, and I wrote about this in my daily email, which is going out tonight, so if it's before 11 p.m. GMT or 6 p.m. EST, then sign up for my email below and you'll get the email. But I wrote about this in my email, which goes out today anyway, and this guy on Reddit was writing about this situation with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend had basically he overheard his girlfriend talking to a friend of hers, and she said to the friend, my boyfriend, he's not very exciting, but he's a really nice guy, and you should value you don't always have to go for the exciting alpha bad boy. Sometimes it's good to go for the nice dude because they're more stable and blah blah blah. Now, the guy who wrote this Reddit post was pretty upset by this, because rightly he recognised it as being a bit of a problem. Because if a girl says who you're dating says you're not exciting, you know, for any guy that's a bit of a kick in the teeth, right? And he was asking for advice. He was asking for people to tell him what he should do. And my first response to that was he should just get up and walk out, because he's on borrowed time. You know, he should just end the relationship, because saying that is almost akin to her not respecting him, really. You know, it's kind of an equivalent to that. But I then read a bit further, and, you know, she'd been initiating sex with him and all this kind of thing. So I thought, well, you know, you might feel that that's a little bit extreme. But another thing that you can do is to create distance. So what that guy might want to do in that situation is just to remove himself from the situation for a number of days, between 3 and 4 days, and have no contact, and just let her wonder what's happened. Now, the writer Black Dragon, whose blog is very, very good, and I would recommend that you check it out if you haven't already, he calls this a soft next, and he talks about how a period of no contact for 3 to 4 days can really kind of reset the record, because it gives her time to think about the situation and to start to miss you, and, you know, it creates conflict, if you like. It creates, because whereas before you've been very dependable and you've been very predictable, and she knows that you're always going to be there, suddenly you just disappear, and she's like thinking, what the hell? And that is incredibly, incredibly powerful, and that is an action, because it's not you're not there having a logical conversation with her saying, no, listen, girlfriend, I am exciting. Look at these things I did. I once went skydiving when I was in New Zealand. You know, it's not, you're not using sort of logic. You're not presenting a case to her. Never present a case in those situations. Don't present a case. Silence is more powerful. Take yourself out of the equation. Don't, you know, remove yourself. Don't communicate for a period of days. She's gonna be thinking, what the hell? What's happened? What, you know, suddenly this safe, dependable, not exciting dude that I thought I was dating, suddenly what the hell's happened? Has he died? Has he run away? Has he joined the Foreign Legion? You know, has he got on one of those Elon Musk beta flights to Mars? I mean, what the hell is going on? And that is going to re-inject that excitement and that mystery and that intrigue back into the situation. Because when you lack mystery, when you lack intrigue, when you lack excitement, and these are all emotional cues. When you lack those things, it becomes boring, workaday, quotidian, and not very sexy. So yeah, you know, you need to do an action, and an action is to remove yourself from the situation. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess you can argue removing yourself from a situation is a non-action, but you know what I mean. It's distinct from a logical, reasoned argument that you would have verbally, which just isn't going to work. And that's what I'm counseling you to avoid. You know, it's better to, I mean, just think about, again, I mention him every podcast, but think about Donald Trump. What would Donald Trump do? Is he going to sit there having a careful, reasoned, logical argument, or is he just going to, is he just going to sort of walk out in the media room and, you know, tell everyone to go to hell? I think we know the answer to that. So just don't worry or don't concern yourself with trying to convince people of why you are right so much through logic. Instead, do something that's going to shake them up emotionally. Not shake them up, maybe that's a bad way of saying it. Something that's going to affect them emotionally, and see what happens with that, because that is going to be much, much more effective. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that made some sense. I now have to go to my commitment this afternoon, so I'm going to leave this here from a wonderful and very chilly London Bridge railway station. But do drop me an email at troy@realtroyfrancis.com if you've got any questions you'd like me to answer on video or in this podcast. Do, as I say, grab Renegade Dating Blueprint, the 10-book bundle, link below, $39. Do subscribe to my daily email list, link below, and do hit subscribe and the notifications bell to my YouTube channel to be kept up to date with all the latest content. I will see you again next week for this podcast again. Bye-bye.